What up, my fellow Survivor lovers? Welcome to the Survivor Historian, part of the Challenge Historian podcast feed. I am your host, Jacob Hollabaugh, born again Survivor superfan, and joining me as he does every week to cover this wonderful, amazing so far season of Survivor 45 is the wonderful and great Tony Lance. Tony, how are you doing, my friend?
Not too bad. I also have a feline friend with me, so any purring or other such noises, although I was very excited about the episode, they are not my own. They are Mozzie's. She is here until she's gone.
I love that. I forget which show was it that oh no, I was thinking it was either Challenge or Survivor, and I was like, no, it's the third show that I watch. I also Loki. There was a no spoilers here, but there was a funny squeal that was made and commented on in a recent episode of Loki from a character, and so I for some reason I thought that happened in Challenge or Survivor, and that made me think of it. Not important to what we're here to talk about at all, but welcome, Mozzie, the unofficial third co-host. If you do have any thoughts, feel free to share the feline perspective. We'll take it. It is a Friday night. We are here. Friday is officially the first to get two-time recorded on. We
There you
were
go.
spread across 5 different days prior to this, but Friday is the leader in the clubhouse right now with two recordings. So we're here, Survivor 45, episode number 6, the not the merge episode, the
Yeah.
transition episode. Wonderful, amazing things to get to, plenty to get to. We will in just one moment. Quick programming reminders. We are now in the thick of B-Fank over on Challenge World Battle for a New Champion. My episode 2 recap went up yesterday morning. Apologies again for the first couple weeks coinciding with Wednesday night concerts, which is very, very random and strange in my household, but did happen. So those for the next few weeks and for the rest of the season, hopefully, fingers crossed, will be out Wednesday night. Tony, you are recording your episode 2 challenge recap later this evening. Is that correct?
Yes, I had to think about what episode it was. Yeah, episode 2,
The newest
later
one.
this evening. Yeah.
Awesome. So if you're listening to this, that might also be up, and if it's not, it will be within a short time frame, I am sure. Other than that, that's what I've got going on. Is we're just for the rest of the calendar year, I would assume it's going to be Survivor 45 until it's done. It's going to be B-Fank until it's done. Tony, anything other than covering that the challenge coming, challenge fandom wise? Any big upcoming interviews or anything worth shouting out?
Not that I can think of. We're kind of just like straight on with 39. I think, yeah, we hit a point where we're good. We've got like enough recaps to keep us occupied. So I'm sure there might be like an interview popping up here and there, but for the most part, we're straight recap. I mean, the way that it's going, I don't even think we're going to be able to do like a roundtable anytime soon because we'll probably get overlap on 39 and then maybe All Stars 4.
I don't know. We'll
Who
see.
knows?
They haven't announced that they're leaving for filming anytime soon, but it's the holidays, and so if we get to week 1 of January and they're leaving to film USA 3 and that's going to come out before All Stars 4, who knows? But those are for another podcast. Today is Survivor 45. Agenda will remain the same as it has the first 5 episodes of this podcast experience. We're going to walk through the episode, hit anything worth talking about. We'll probably do so for a very long time because getting these down to an hour was a pipe dream originally, and we probably will never do it. Who knows? Maybe we will. Maybe there'll be a boring episode and there won't be much to talk about. Fingers crossed there's not, but this one was far from it. So a lot to get through. Then we'll do some awards, power rankings, and wishes and predictions at the end. Tony, are you ready?
Let's do this.
All right, let's get to it. So the episode, we will quickly touch on the 1 day kind of little bit we get before the actual merge situation happens, which is with Nulu tribe on day 12. And it is a last ditch effort by Bruce, by everyone, but it then turns into Bruce into getting an idol. Everyone is off looking. Caleb has now filled in, I guess he doesn't like directly say it, but it's clear. The context clues are clear. He has filled in everyone about Sabaya having had the idol and left with an idol now. We had seen him tell Kelly this and use that bit of info to kind of bring her in. It seems everyone knows this now. He's saying this is where the idol was before, trying to look for it. It's a big scramble. They eventually, Bruce casually does find it in the tree that had the snake in it. I, for one, I wish Jake would have found it. I think, I don't know, maybe it's the most interesting that Bruce found it, but I just like Jake. I'm liking Jake so much more. I wish he would have
Me
found
too.
it as he was looking in that tree. Bruce finds it. It's a beware advantage. It is an easy beware advantage, to say
Yeah,
the least. Let's actually start with that. I know it was probably placed there within their knowledge. They know, like, there's 24 hours or whatever for them to find this
right.
and get this done, so it can't be the huge project that the others are. But dig under your shelter for 3 seconds seems not like an equal beware advantage compared to what
No,
everyone
I
else has had
mean,
to do.
here's the thing. Their shelter is set up perfectly for there's an idol under your shelter because from the very beginning, Lulu has sort of had this like empty spot in the middle and then two sides of the shelter. So the empty spot's in the middle of the shelter, and there's only like 5 people there. So it's not hard, especially if you find the clue with 4 of the 5 people. Like he yeah, I it annoyed me that it was so easy. Um I did listen to the On Fire episode.
Mhm.
Um Something in it really annoyed me, and I'll touch on it later. But for the most part, the thing that was interesting was there's apparently fine print at the very bottom of these clues that basically says, like, when you are in a situation where you are no longer able to complete this task, then the idol becomes dead and your vote is restored. So,
Oh.
because the question became like, if they leave and Bruce doesn't find that, does he then not have a vote? But because it was specifically on Lulu Beach, and there's no way for them to return to Lulu Beach to get the idol, if he wouldn't have found the idol before he left, the idol would be considered dead. His vote would be restored. Um,
I don't know if I like that we don't know, not that we don't know that, but that they like do the confessionals with Bruce, and they insinuate otherwise. They
yeah,
insinuate like they have him say, like, this
this is
vote's
Scramble.
here. I've got like 10 minutes to find this thing, or I am
Yeah,
screwed without a vote. So I don't love that I get why they would do it. It's more interesting television than
right.
like, hey, if you find the idol, cool, but like if I don't, it's all good. So I guess I'll just get on the boat. I guess I know that that's, way less boring, or more boring, excuse me. But yeah, I don't love that. But he does find the idol. They're hiding it from Katura the whole time, of course, because arch rivals at this point. And he pulls off that, with some assistance. Jake helps him out with the little fake "I lost my ring,"
Which was
which,
good. This is some decent acting. Like it's better than
smart gameplay move, like
yeah.
a nice way to like help out the group and everything. And I don't know, this crew is not. I'm not having this cast of Survivor 45 put on a play at my local theater. I'll say that. I have this add this to the list of acting that I did not buy on this season of Survivor. But I don't even know if Katura noticed it or was like even
No.
around for it.
Well,
So
props to him actually removing one of the rings, though, to
yeah,
then say that he lost it. Because there is probably a world where somebody would be like, "Oh, I lost my thing," and they're like, "It's on around your neck." And
you
they're like, "Oh, I
lost your
found
buff.
it."
It's the one on your head. Yeah, that.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, I found it. Okay.
found it. Thanks, got
Yeah.
it. But
So
yeah,
he gets an idol last second. It's pretty easy, and then he hops on the boat. They all hop on the boats, and the boats take them to Reba, original OG Reba Beach, to all be together. And so we get into day 12 and 13, the group hanging out, all getting to know each other for the first time. Was there anything about the initial kind of greetings or meet backups with your old tribe members? Any of the interactions that stood out to you that you were either surprised by or happy to see, or just you think were kind of interesting for how the game is about to unfold?
I mean, I was the thing that I was looking for the most was the reconnection of Caleb and Emily, and they really didn't show it. We got Austin and Drew and like everybody on the beach being stoked that Austin and Drew are still there because really that means Reba's the only full team. But other than that, like I suppose that like most people would be looking for Caleb and Emily reconnecting, and they kind of showed it, but not really at all. They basically just had the voiceover and then had clips of them both looking off camera, but never actually showed them meeting up, which leads me to believe that they were like super covert about it and didn't really link up there and waited until their little walk through the woods.
Yeah, we do see the one walk through the woods with them, and I'm glad you pointed this out. We'll come back much later at the end of this episode to those two's relationship and how I'm because I'm pro Emily, I'm reading it as really what I will eventually say is really good gameplay by her, but is very their relationship is definitely the most interesting to me of everyone that's left and got more interesting by the end of the episode in a big way. That stood out to that was kind of obvious. It felt like all the obvious interactions happened and everyone kind of there wasn't anyone that didn't revert back to their original plan. Uh, it is weird again in the condensed game. I get it just feels like all of this happens really fast that like, oh, we
Yeah.
like really quickly got to a tribe swap and I was excited about it, but then we only got two tribals in two episodes and now we're on the merge and everything. So it just feels fast and like not much set in to sway anyone from kind of being with their original people. We see Reba line up and they all Sifu and Jay have some trepidations, but they kind of feel like they're part of a six, and the other four, like this is the four that's going to run the game.
Yep.
Emily and Caleb are back together. The Bello tribe is together, but equally kind of knows that they're not very strong the same
Kendra's
way they
back. That's
originally
it.
left. Yeah,
Like,
Kendra's kind of like, maybe we are, or maybe the girls are. And Kelly's like, no, we're not. I never really was, but we're not. And Katura is definitely like, if y'all are with Bruce, I ain't with you.
yep.
So nothing's really changed there. They don't, I'm forgetting because we haven't spent that much time at the Reba beach really through the first 5 episodes, but it seems like because then it's a big rainstorm. Sifu loves it. Sifu is growing on me now. I'm getting a little used now to what to expect from Sifu, and I'm kind of starting to like it more and more. But they all kind of hate the rain. But the thing that stuck out to me about the rain was it seems like they don't really have much of a shelter at
No.
all. Did you pick up on this? Like I didn't like they
Yeah.
didn't all go like they're all just like walking around in the rain. I know Bruce is like telling them and they all have to work and everything, which is
Immediately.
just ridiculous.
I mean, I know it's an edit, but like perceived immediately.
Yeah, it still happened that day, but
Yeah.
my question wasn't in that moment. That was the first moment I actually thought of like, wait a minute, it is one thing that Bruce is like telling them to get to work. That's funny and interesting and
Yeah.
Bruce, but also get to work on what I thought this was the tribe that had like won a bunch of stuff through the first five. Like they don't have I guess I never hadn't picked up on like they don't have like a nice shelter, not
Well,
even a nice one, like a shelter built really.
they also have to expand their shelter from 5 to 13.
That's fair. I had not considered the fact that yes, it is 2.5 times bigger. They probably did have room for 5 people. Now,
Yeah.
yeah, I hadn't
Probably
thought about that at
comfortably.
all. Well, it's Survivor. You come, in the game, especially by day 13. Like, I'm sorry, you gotta cuddle. You gotta cuddle with
Yep.
people you don't want to cuddle with. You never would imagine cuddling with. But like, I do I want to cuddle with Sifu? I don't know how that's gonna go. I don't know what, but I'm gonna do it. It seemed that would be warm in that rain.
It's
It would be
true.
warm to hug Sifu. Okay, so
He may play
yeah,
bongos on your backside, but he'll keep you warm.
yeah. Okay, wow. I feel really dumb for not considering. Like, well, yeah, they made a 6-person shelter and now there's 13. That makes so much sense. That's why you're here, Tony, to help
There
the
you go.
uneducated like myself.
That is
Uh,
why I am the Survivor historian. I can make simple addition happen.
Yes, and I cannot. You don't need to do math to know challenge stuff.
It's true.
Not often, usually. Um, the most interesting thing I feel like pre-immunity challenge of the first day or so on the beach is there's two standout polar opposites. There's Caleb, who is a part of every discussion and is doing Caleb again. It's an edit, but like he's making it easy for them to edit the whole like Caleb the salesman storyline. It's pretty
Yeah.
easy. He's charming it up, hamming it up with everyone. And Bruce is off. Yes, no one is talking to him, but also every time he complains about no one talking to him, he's like standing way down the beach, like picking palm fronds or something. And I'm like, well, dude, is your only offer like, hey, come work with me way down the beach and have a conversation? Because I'm not going to say yes either. I'm going to be like, I don't know. Caleb seems to be having a lot of fun. I'm going to stay around camp and not work that
So
hard. So
I
those are the
I
standouts.
I picked up something on that too. Also, I will say one of the things that I liked the best was Emily felt the need to apologize to Bruce, clear the air, but
First
also
thing
was
when the initial
right out of
hug.
the gate.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then when they actually spoke, she, in her confessional, was like, cleared the air, whatever, but that does not mean that I have to work with him. And I like that because sometimes you will get stuck in this like pleasantry paradox where I've apologized to this person, I've had this conversation, so now I have to work with them. And she didn't feel that at all. But as far as Bruce saying that like no one was talking to him, I get that. I get the feeling. Um, I understand the concept of a pepperia, but what I don't understand is how he can continually say to three different people that no one is talking to him when they have all come to the exact place where he is and he's having a conversation with them, which means that at least three people came to that exact spot where he was, where no one was talking to him and spoke to him.
Including the two of the three people, well, one who is definitely actively working against him, and one who eventually will work against him because he is working against them. Like,
Yeah.
Katura comes and talks to you, Bruce. Don't tell me no one comes and talks to you. The woman that hates you and finally got into a merge where she doesn't have to talk to you came and checked in on you.
Yeah.
Okay. Kelly checked in on you. She has no interest in being your number one that you think, but she checked in. And Caleb, the guy you're getting all mad at, checked in with you too. He didn't
And
leave
so did
you out of
Emily
it.
separately.
Yeah. So
Like, I get it. Like, I understand the people that he wanted to speak to did not approach him. And he had that conversation with Caleb at the water well. But
mhm,
when he was like on the beach, like way the hell down there were three separate people at least that came and spoke to him during the period of time that no one was speaking to him. And
yeah.
I guess Kendra was as well because he said that he was being a pariah or it felt like a pariah, and then she said, "What's a pepariah?" And that was my favorite, one of my favorite lines of the night. Not even because like not a slight against Kendra or anything like that, just the fact that
Funny.
he says one thing and she absolutely hears another will always be
It's
funny to
funny.
me, no matter the situation.
Yeah. Speaking of Kendra, she was the other standout early in the episode. Her I know she says over and over, how hungry she is, and I don't understand because I haven't been through that level of hunger, thankfully,
Yeah,
fingers crossed, I won't unless I am also playing Survivor, but, I, like, get that she's really hungry, and I get that she's, like, an emotive person to begin with, but she is emoting like crazy the beginning of the episode, like,
yeah,
she just had her facial expressions are I don't know. I feel like she can make her eyes and smile just like bigger, like a superpower. Like her face suddenly, like the screen expands and then it goes back, and I'm like, oh wait, what happened there? But she had some wild facial expressions. She got very excited about the fish when it showed up. Did some mild twerking potentially even about over the fish,
I
which was
think so.
interesting. So she was definitely very present in the beginning too. But Caleb is everyone's best friend, but they all notice that Bruce is on the outs and doesn't like it. The last thing I'll say about that, does it feel a little to you like maybe is Bruce is a very social person himself.
Hmm.
Clearly, we have seen that. It is,
Yep.
the reason Katura hates him because he tries too hard to be the social person that everyone likes and everything.
Yeah,
Is there a little jealousy here? Is
I think
Bruce
so.
like, wait a minute, I tried to be the social butterfly, the fun guy, the charming guy, and some of the people in my little tribe didn't like it. Now we're all on this beach, and this one guy is like charming the pants off everyone, and they don't want to come talk to me and work. I feel like there's a little bit of like, I kind of want everyone to work and do that, but I also kind of want to be Caleb's spot of everyone liking me and being able to charm everyone.
Yep.
And now I'm like actually Uncle Bruce. I've told everyone to call me Uncle Bruce, but now I'm like actually Uncle Bruce. He's like, oh, he's down on the beach working. We don't care about him. And who cares? We're here with the new fun young guy or whatever. I feel like there's a little bit of that in there.
I feel like there is too, especially where like he's being so like Bruce is being so intentional with like what he's saying about Caleb,
Yeah.
about how he's being the social butterfly and he's bouncing around to every person and he's having all of those important conversations. And then the contrast is the perception that no one is coming to talk to Bruce.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's where it's coming from. And I get it. Like, totally valid. You're on a tribe of 13 people, and there's somebody that you were working with like hours before when you were on your own beach, and now you're not. Like, you're not having those conversations, you're not getting those check-ins that you were when there were only 5. So I get it. I don't necessarily agree with the like you shouldn't talk to people, and if you're Bello strong, you need to only talk to Bello. Like that's a bit of an extreme. That's borderline like Boston Rob. Everybody has to go with a buddy. Nobody can be out of my sight,
Yeah.
and it doesn't always play well.
Yeah, you can't. He literally says at one point to Katura or whoever, like, we don't talk to them, we don't work with them, we don't do anything. I'm like, but that you only get to vote one person out every 2 days or whatever, Bruce. Like you
Yeah.
can't you can't actually just sit on the beach with in a group that has more people than you and be like, we're gonna be over here, we're not gonna talk or interact with you because we're gonna vote all of you off. It's not quite that simple. But that's that for that. That made sense. We will head now to the immunity challenge. We get to immunity. We walk in, we see two things, two courses set up. So we know right away what we kind of knew from the next week on when we saw the two courses set up. We are not at Emerge. We are in Limbo, as Jeff calls it. And this is our classic in Limbo challenge draw for spots. One person, there's 13. So one person isn't on a team. They got to bet on a team and sit out. And we play for safety and food and buffs, and the other half has to go to tribal council, vulnerable for the night. Do you like in general the limbo challenge and the idea of like we go to the beach, but there's a transitory step here before everyone is actually in and merged and all vulnerable and all playing an individual game?
No, at all. I don't like it. I
Do you
actively
want
hate it.
and instead would you want this to just still happen at the same time, but immediately be here's your buffs as an individual challenge, or do you want
Yep.
it to be a little longer of tribes?
No, I want like if you're going to merge, merge. Because here's the thing, especially with a 90-minute episode, and especially with this 90-minute episode, you have the first half of this entire episode where people are interacting with different people from different tribes. You're getting names thrown out, you're getting different like side alliances being built. That's enough right there to warrant a merge. Because even if everybody gets a buff and then one person is immune, that still makes very interesting television to me,
Mhm.
especially with this group of people and with the first half of the episode that we got. Because you've got Bruce who's not jiving with Caleb anymore. You've got Katura who's going after Bruce. You've got Emily who doesn't really want to work with Bruce. And then you've got Reba who's kind of throwing Jay's name out there, but not fully at this point. So there's so many possibilities that are rifling through that really we don't need half of the people are safe by way of a rock draw.
Mhm.
Like, if you're going to make half of the people safe, I would rather that you do what's probably going to happen next week, where everybody participates in an individual challenge. And then if you want to have two people immune, fine. Like, have two people win for the first, like, couple. But, like, everybody gets the merge. Everybody gets the merge feast because you've made it to the halfway point. But as it stands right now, you do a rock draw. You're split up into, in this case, two groups of 6. And one group, by fluke, by being put in that group, they're going to win. They're going to be immune. And they're going to get a merge feast, which means that they're going to be better satiated. Like they're going to be in higher spirits for the next challenge, which in a shorter game is going to be like within a day or two. So it's not even enough for that to kind of burn off as far as like that motivation. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see somebody from the merge feast go on to win the individual immunity.
Mhm.
The flip side is like you've got, if you look at the breakdown, some of the bigger players are all on one team. And it's like your Caleb's, your Jake's, your Kelly's, your Emily's. Like the group that lost, you very easily could have lost some of your biggest players in the game by a way of a rock draw that could have made for a much less interesting back half of the season rather than just make everybody able to be like play individual immunity. Everybody gets a buff, everybody gets a feast. Because like Sifu said, I think it was Sifu, everybody's like dropped their dropped their walls, they're having their food, they're kind of like talking to everybody, everybody wants to socialize. That's fine in a group of 7. It's even better in a group of 13 because then you have so many more conversations going on. And I think it was Julie. She flat out said, like, there's 7 of us, there's 6 of them. We can just decide at this feast who we're taking out from the 6. And those 6 can't do anything, which means that half of the people that are playing lost immunity, lost a feast, and have absolutely no way to do anything in this game. They can just get picked off. We could have lost Kelly because she doesn't, and she doesn't play her shot in the dark because she thinks she's safe. You lose your winner pick, or I lose my winner pick in D, like just by way of the 7 of them being like, no thanks.
Yeah.
So that's my soapbox.
I I agree in part with you. The main thing there is just that like it does one of the things that some pro survivor anti-challenge people would say is like the fairness of the games, or the kind of, a thing that has been in the modern, new era of survivor, all of the twists and stuff and the advantages and
Yeah,
idols being like too much is like a common criticism and everything. That's certainly a big criticism in the world of the challenge. And this is the type of thing where it's like your decision of like the format of the game and changes in the format are impacting people's outsized impact on like advantage disadvantage within the game, and that is
yeah,
kind of something that I feel like survivor tries to avoid, and so they're like, really stepping in it in that realm of like this is a massive advantage for the team that wins this and a really big disadvantage for the team that loses. I still I'm more okay with it than you. The part though that I'm fully with you on is there should not be a person that has to sit out. That is the spot that is super unfair because that's one person who out of 13 has to have the target of like having picked a side and
yep,
saying like I think this random group of people is going to be like better whatever, which it sucks that only if you're the only person that has to say that has to like make a comment of some kind on everyone's ability. And
right,
then, if you were to lose on the losing side, you like didn't participate. And if you're on the winning side, you didn't participate, so like you didn't earn it or whatever. Like it's just a really unfair spot to put only 1 out of 13 people in, and put that kind of like kind of not it's really it's not it doesn't have to be perceived as target, but potential target, or just making one person an outlier in some way is
yep,
really kind of an unfair spot to put someone in. It doesn't seem to have hurt Katura in any way in this
because they
episode, but
won.
yeah, because they
Because they
won.
won. If you
But
lose,
you're
like
yeah,
say
you're
you
screwed.
yeah, say you pick the losing, like you pick the tribe that loses, right? So you go back and you're just like, well, I picked you guys and y'all shit the bed, and
Yeah,
now I'm stuck with you. Or like there's like it's a no win scenario because like you said, it didn't hurt her, but she could have been perceived as you didn't actively participate in this challenge. So yeah, you're here, but like you didn't win your spot, you guessed your spot. And I'm not saying that because I mean like she played within the confines of the game and I can't fault her
yeah.
for it.
She got
But
the worst
like
spot. She got the worst position to be in. She did something with it, but
yep,
it draws attention to you, and it's a ridiculous reason. But in these games and in Survivor, especially, you're
all you
kind of
need.
at any given point just like looking for a reason to like
Hmm.
vote for someone. Like you don't necessarily ever have like a really good one
Yeah,
outside of like if someone has voted for you or something. But otherwise, you're pulling at straws of like, well, shit, like we don't know who to, if she would have been on that losing side and they're all like, we don't know who to say. With the people we kind of wanted to say are over on the winning side. And it's like, I don't know. We can at least have a reason, as bullshit as it might be, to say Katura, because
yep,
like, well, you didn't participate. So like
yeah.
I'm grasping at straws that straw at least exists to grasp at. So I don't like that aspect of it. I'm mostly okay with it. But like you said, it is just more fun of like make this episode, make it the shortest individual immunity possible that takes up like 5 minutes of airtime,
Yep.
because a 13-person scramble is really interesting on the day that they've all come together and met and everything. So I want
Some
to
for the
see
first
that.
time.
Yeah, I want to see that.
Yeah.
My only other real main question about the challenge that I thought was like fine, everyone more or less does okay. The one tribe just like consistently does a little tiny bit better and builds up a
Yeah,
lead and doesn't mess up the puzzle. The cargo net doesn't seem safe to me. I'm just gonna say that.
the rundown.
The one going down, the one that's like
Yeah,
bouncy and is like there's no way to kind of slide, like you're gonna bounce and there thank God no one like ends up flipping because it seems
right.
like it would very be inclined to like the first bounce, you'd be like, wait a minute, why am I now going head over heels or whatever? We do see Jake seems to like maybe twist
Ooh,
his ankle, and then
yeah.
Kelly like scrunches her back really hard. And I'm like, dude, I'm growing pretty protective of Kelly over here. Okay. I really like that woman. What the fuck, Jeff? What is this? Don't hurt my girl over there. Or Jake for that matter, or anyone.
Yeah.
But I just again, as a show that is so impeccably produced, I was just like that thing doesn't seem safe at all. Like that little straw dust or whatever you put at the bottom, like cool. I'm not worried about the landing. I'm worried about flipping and falling off it and breaking ankles and stuff.
Yeah.
That was the most noteworthy thing about the actual challenge to me.
Yeah, there I mean, I honestly I wrote that Katura draws the no color rock, picks winning team. And then I wrote red makes up some ground, but they finished the second puzzle as yeah, but blue finished the second puzzle as red finished the first one, and that was it. That's all I wrote because they were pretty much neck and neck. They just they were slightly behind,
Mm.
and they didn't become not slightly behind.
Yeah, and I mean, the only one, and again, it's edited in a way where you're not even totally confident. Like Jay took a little while to get through the mud rope
Maybe,
thing,
yeah,
maybe. The only other thing I will point out, someone beat Caleb at something. Sifu and Caleb were the first two people to go, and Sifu got through the mud rope net first. So
yep.
well, he never says anything later in the episode. When everyone's talking about how big of a threat Caleb is, I feel like Sifu is the only person there can be like, "What are you talking about? I got that guy, no problem. I beat him."
You don't want to say that though, then you're the threat.
Well, yeah, of course you're not going to
He
say
got
that loud, but
slightly
you
ahead
might be
of
thinking it.
he got slightly ahead of Caleb in the one thing. He's definitely the bigger threat.
He's like, "Hey, in that one 15-second competition, you beat Caleb by a second, so you're officially Michael Jordan around here. We can't have you. We need you to go home and Caleb to go home next." Yeah, so that's the immunity challenge. Let's move on to the ensuing scramble. Before the scramble, we head straight to the sanctuary where all good things happen, as Jeff
Yes,
says. I would like to think some good things happen outside of the sanctuary on Survivor beaches, but
me
I
too.
understand what he's saying. The best things happen there, or the food things happen there. Um, First comment, they all seem to have alcohol. There is wine and beer available, and they all seem to at
Yes.
least have some. It's not like we don't see anyone like, refilling a glass or anything like that. But I'm always just like, don't have the alcohol. Just don't do it. It's a bad idea. And Sifu, although it seems like it's the only one he had, so probably no harm done. But he does straight up chug his beer. Or I
He
assume it's a
does.
beer. I don't know. Maybe it could have been a Coke or a root beer, but it looks to be a beer. Are you on the same thought pattern as me? As I'm avoiding a lot of the different food and drink potentially offered, but very specifically, I'm not putting alcohol in my system in that scenario. It is
Yeah.
poison. I do drink plenty of it. I'm drinking some of it right now. I don't, but I do know it's poison. And in a situation when you're starved on a beach, putting poison in your body seems like not the way to feel good for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I think Rick Devens actually talked about it on this episode as well, based on the sanctuary feast, and said like in your mind, you totally know like you're not supposed to eat half of the stuff that's on that table, but when you haven't eaten for 13 days,
Just
you're
like,
not paying attention to
yeah,
that. You're
throw it
shoveling
down
it
my
in.
throat. Yeah.
Yeah, and I get that, but like the one that I always think of is the when they win for reward like coffee and like
Oh my
sweets and
God.
stuff.
Caffeine.
I
No.
want nothing to do with that one. Like I'm lactose intolerant and I know what coffee does to your system, but even if it didn't, I don't want that. Like that to me, and I know that I'm more of a savory person than a sweet person to begin with. I don't want sweets. I don't want the danishes and the cookies and the coffee. That no, that is a recipe for disaster on like an empty stomach. I know what it's like if you wake up in the morning and eat something sweet before you like have a base level there.
Yeah, on a regular poor diet that I already have, that I'm eating
Yeah,
poor
yeah.
things all day long. Yeah, I just but you're totally right. I mean, I'd say all this, and it would be if I was ever on Survivor, I would go in so focused on I want to get to a reward and I want to prove to myself that I cannot eat some of the things that I know rationally outside of the game you probably shouldn't. And I would be like, Seafood, do you want to chug the next beer? Because there's two more left. Let's do it, dude. So yeah, it would be bad. Speaking of Sifu, he offers someone has to do it. Someone has to, they're obviously going to talk about the game. And
Yep.
Sifu gets right to it, says, should we talk about the game? And everyone says, we should. You should go. You should say a name. And he's like, funny, you should ask. I've got a name. It's Jay. How about Jay? Everyone on board. He offers her up right away. Um, there's a mostly positive response to that offer, and then there's a little bit of pushback, or just like a should we talk about anyone else, and Kendra and Bruce go hard on Caleb. So we've got Sifu hard on Jay, Kendra and Bruce hard on Caleb. Everyone pretty much in lockstep of like those are two good options, whether we
Yeah.
fall more on one side or another.
Yeah. I thank you, Mozzie. Um, I she's now drinking my water. I I'm kind of annoyed at Kendra more than Bruce. Because Bruce, like, you already knew this was coming. Kendra's never worked with Caleb. She's never been on a beach with Caleb. She's never interacted with Caleb beyond like this morning.
No, yeah, because she was not on the tribe that he stole from, so she didn't have that experience. That was Reba.
I guess
Um,
she would have been at his beach in the part of the twist that we didn't see where she went to the camp for the day.
yeah, so she actually has. She spent a day in a
Yeah.
tribal with him.
But like
Which
what I
was the first tribal, which was where,
Hannah,
um, Emily was full-throated, Caleb and Sabaya have to get out of here,
yeah.
like, when it was made kinda no sense. It was, was that interesting situation, episode 1. So,
Yeah.
yes, that is a g I'm glad you remembered that because I have totally forgotten because they don't want
Well,
us to know that it happened. So
but
she
she
does have
doesn't
that.
know.
She has
She
in her
doesn't
head.
know.
Yeah.
Like Bello, she was not with her tribe. The rest of her tribe, other than Brando, was with Caleb on the beach,
Yeah.
potentially bonding with Caleb and working with Caleb. And then,
Or potentially replacing her in the
right,
alliance.
exactly. But then she throws it out when I believe she was the first one to throw it out, which means that she didn't even potentially check in with Bruce and Katura of like, hey, are we working with Caleb? Like, what's the deal on your beach? She was like, that Caleb, he's a real asshole. We should probably we should probably get rid of him. And it was just weird because like you would anticipate, and I don't know, Bruce could have said something to her because like Bruce was fairly quick on, yeah, he needs to go. He's playing real hard. But to me, it seemed strange that that Kendra was the one to put it forward, simply because she was the only one remaining from Bello that hadn't actually interacted with him and potentially didn't know how close all of the Bello members were. So that speaking up and being vocal about it could really have like hurt her alliance inadvertently.
That's very true. I'm guessing I'm giving the benefit of the doubt that, we don't see every conversation, so maybe
Oh yeah.
she was aware that Bruce felt similar, and I don't know, Bruce did make her we did see Bruce tell her about, like, "No one's talking to me, everyone's talking to Caleb." So she,
Yeah.
I think, at least knew, Bruce is gonna back this up and be on board with this. And you know, that idea had at least been told to her by Bruce. And I'm guessing she maybe then, was paying more attention after Bruce complains about everyone talking to Caleb, and she's got an eye on him and just is, if anything, it is the in a vacuum, you would think coming into this, there's a bunch of Reba people, there's a bunch of Bello people, and there's two Lulu people. And so the safest thing in this situation would maybe be to like throw out one of the Lulu members because they're both available to vote for. So maybe she's leaning like, I know I got one person who thinks this. Everyone is hopefully probably going to be pretty easily convinced he's a threat and he's not in the tribe. And, we're sitting here, some Bello, some Reba, no Lulu.
Yeah.
So, I would see why she maybe feels kind of safe in
I
throwing it out there.
I would almost think that she would say Emily though, because Emily just
Damn
like
sure should, because Emily's gonna win.
Emily Emily like quote unquote flipped on her, which doesn't make sense because you can't flip on somebody that you're not actively working with.
Yeah.
But she said that Emily flipped.
She
That
was not
Emily
chosen. Yeah.
right, exactly.
It's
And
different than
fair.
flipping. You were not
Yeah.
chosen. She was
You
giving an
were
opportunity to pick you or the other side, and she chose the other side. But that is different than flipping, insinuates that you were working and had an
working and then
agreement.
not.
And although Emily obviously lied as far as living life with you too, so maybe it's fair for her to say Emily flipped on me, but from the outside we can be like, it's not quite. Let's be really I'm a literal person. I love being very literal about stuff. She didn't technically flip, she just
Yep.
chose not you.
Now, with that though, that means that she went with Austin and Drew. So conceivably, she went with Reba, which gives Reba 7
Seven,
members,
yeah.
right? So
So
if
pick
Reba
her.
has 7 and Bello has been working with Caleb one way or the other, like they've been working with Caleb in some capacity. Does it not make sense to keep Caleb as a number long enough to, at the very minimum, knock Reba off balance so that they are no longer in the majority with Emily? So you take out Emily, and I'm saying this as somebody who loves Emily and wants Emily to go really far in the game, and this is just my hypothetical.
No,
If
she's the biggest threat. She's the number
yeah,
one threat in the game right now, so that's why they
yeah,
should be targeting her.
precisely. But like that means that you haven't even seen, yeah, Caleb's great at like shooting balls into a basket and throwing rings onto a thing, and he's fast. You don't know how he is at individual immunity challenges. So you keep Caleb, then you've got 6 because you lost Brando. You're replacing Brando with Caleb for this, and you've got 7 against 6. You might be able to swing somebody because there's already been talk of Jay. So if you can get Jay over, then you flip the balance, and then that way you're able to really take a shot at Reba, knock out their numbers. Next week, or like in 2 days, you see how Caleb does at individual immunity. If he wins, I doubt he's going to go on an individual immunity run that's going to take him right to Final Four from 12. But the first time that he loses, you take him out.
Yeah.
Fine. You just need him for that one extra vote to make sure that your numbers are more than Reba, because what it seems to be is really a Bello Reba standoff of sorts. So to me, it makes the most sense to go after Emily, take out their extra person, and take them down to your numbers, get one more gone, maybe 2 more gone, and then you can take out Caleb if that's really what you want to do.
Yeah. Well, they've definitely got the 2 options in mind coming out of
Yeah.
the sanctuary, which then they go back to the beach and they learn those are also the 2 options that everyone on the beach is talking about. So, hooray, everyone's on the same page. We get we still get the 13-person scramble. It's just that it's a lot easier to narrow 6 down to 2, and the scramble is kind of just about 2 people versus if this would have been 13 people vulnerable, I'm sure there would have been a couple more names than just the 2 being thrown out. Um, in this situation, I feel like we had Bruce, Kendra, and D, eventually D, all like hard against Caleb, like team vote out Caleb. And
Yeah.
then we had Kelly, Sifu, Caleb, and Emily that were firmly on. Kelly, Sifu, and Caleb were firmly on Jay. Emily was on Jay, but wasn't saying it as firmly to everyone because she's very adequately playing the middle right now. And it becomes kind of a stalemate from what we see of,
Yeah.
there does seem to be 2 or 3 people really adamant about one of each of those people. And then everyone else kind of in the middle being like, there's good arguments for both from my point of view, and I'm kind of fine with both. I'm kind of looking for one of you people that really cares to like convince everyone so that I
Yeah.
don't have to be one of the people that really cares. I feel like we get a lot of that from like Julie, Austin, and Drew in particular, as much as Drew, who I just I freaking love that guy. He's just I smile every time we get a confessional from him. I'm just like, this is the best. He says in this episode, he loves being the leader, of course,
Yeah,
because Drew's got to be in charge. He should be in charge. So let's be clear.
he's the tallest.
But he's the tallest, so he should be in charge.
Sure.
That's a good way to decide it, of course. But he and a bunch of the folks are seem to be. I hear one idea. Yeah, that's fine. That's good by me. Checks out. It doesn't hurt me. It can helps me, whatever. I hear the other idea. I feel the same. I'm going to wait until the couple of you that care the most figure this out because it seems like no matter what, it's a benefit, not not a boon to my game, and I don't want to be making too big of a decision at this stage, which I think is the smart place to be. I think all those folks that are like reading the situation and just kind of sitting back and waiting for someone to confidently say this is what the group's doing are doing the right thing in this situation. I think Bruce is doing the wrong thing of how
As do
I
I.
know it eventually goes his way at the votes and everything, but like I feel like being too strong to start, the first vote with all of you on the same beach. I think the ones that want Jay aren't being as strong. Caleb eventually is, but like Sifu and Kelly are being more reasonable or more kind
Yeah.
of hearing out the other side, which is maybe what leads to the end. But of all the scrambling, because it's kind of just a bunch of time to get to the same conclusion we've known for 20 minutes of the show, heading into tribal of like it's one of these two. The one that really stood out to me was Jake, yet again, not handling a conversation in a way that I don't think many people are willing to or ever do on this show. Of him and Dee have a conversation, and she's like, "What are you thinking?" And he straight up says, it's not because I'm working against you or not willing to work with you, but I'm not convinced yet that I should tell you a name and I don't want to say one, so I'm not going to. And it thankfully for him it works because D's like, "Oh, that's fine. I'll tell you a name then. How about that?" Um, but this is the second or third time now we've seen Jake do what I've continually said I'm praising him for it, and I would like to think I would do something similar of like, just because you're talking with someone one on one, you don't have to exclusively lie to
Yeah.
everyone and say, "Yep, we're the worker. You're Tony. I'm talking to you right now. So Tony, you're my number one, and whatever you say, I'm going to do because." That just turns into 80% of what is being said on the beach is just bold-faced lies. And
Yep.
he's the only person that's kind of like, I'm gonna tell you, and you can believe me, hopefully, over my track record I'm building up, that I mean it when I say, like, it's not because your name is floating out. It's not because I don't want to work with you. It's just the first conversation we've had. So I'm gonna tell you that we're things are good, but I'm not showing you all my cards. I'm not telling you all my info yet. Maybe we'll get there. I really love it, and I'm starting to look at Emily's the biggest threat in my mind in this game. She's who I would pick to win right now if I had to, out of who I think's going to. But Jake is. We'll get to power rankings at the end of the podcast, but he's moving up, and I
Yep.
liked this move. What did you think about that interaction, or maybe even Dee's response to it of being like, "Oh, don't worry, honey, I got a name. How about this?"
I liked both. I think both were really strong moves for the individuals. Um, Dee knew that this was her moment to have that conversation to be like, look, this is what we need to do. Possibly because she could have seen Jake talking to Jay, because we've seen interactions with them about how, like, they've both said, like, I want to see you here tomorrow. Like, I want you to still be in this game. And that was her opportunity to be like, Jay's the one that we want gone. Don't know about you. That's the way the pendulum's swinging. And I liked that Jake was more reserved because he doesn't know where D stands in regards to Reba as a whole or like the individuals. He doesn't even know where she necessarily stands in the six people that aren't immune right now. So I really liked that for both of them. I like that Austin's big thing that he's focusing on is that Jay didn't let him get a sandwich.
Dude, I'm
Um,
with him. I'm so
he
with.
mentioned it like 7 times, and I was like, I get it. Like, you haven't eaten, and then on top of that, you're just like, look, I wanted the sandwich. I I didn't want the advantage. I didn't want anything. I wanted that sandwich. And like you said earlier, if you can come up with one reason to say somebody's name, that's all you need.
And
And
that's a
that's what he
decent one.
had.
That's a
Yep.
real straw that should exist that is right there for you to grab because she doesn't know in that moment. But as we talked about last week, it's not just that he wants the sandwich and they don't. It's that he had already previously been like, you don't realize that you were on the outs with our group. You don't know yet because we're not going to
Yeah.
tell you, but you were not in the alliance with Reba. And we don't care about you. And so it's kind of the perfect storm working against her that she's made an enemy without realizing that she has made an enemy. But I'm with him. I'm just like, dude,
Oh
I
yeah.
want I want that sandwich. I think the amulet's bullshit. And the only way the amulet's not bullshit is if I vote your asses out immediately. And
And
so
that's
yeah.
the thing. So like Reba, people were asking online like um why were Reba so quick to throw out Jay's name? So there's a couple of reasons that I came up with watching it the second time that I didn't necessarily like. It didn't all click into place because first off, you want to basically, if you're going to say a name, it makes the most sense to say a name of somebody on your own tribe because you're going to have less resistance from the other people because you're not taking away from their numbers. It improves Austin's amulet, so it takes it up a notch. So it's just him and Kelly left. So then now they're at like a steal a vote. But more importantly, if that four can really push a name that they're confident that everyone else is saying, that means that Austin doesn't need his vote at that tribal, which allows him to save his vote, make his idol a final five idol. So that way, like, conceivably any one of the four could use it if they need it, or they would play it for one another if the need arose. So I think that was more so what it was, more so than necessarily even the amulet or the sandwich. It was a matter of like, if we can get everybody on this beach to pick one person and we know that everyone is going to vote that person, then Austin doesn't have to vote. And then his idol goes from only being good tonight to being good until final five. And
Yeah.
that's huge.
Yeah, they gained 1.5 advantages out of it. They gained an idol more or less, and they gained steal a vote that actually it's still difficult to get Kelly to do it with you. They still have to do it in tandem, I believe. They don't each
Yeah.
individually get a steal a vote, but it's much more realistic than three people agreeing on whatever they got, like
Uh,
an extra
an
vote,
extra
maybe.
vote. Yeah.
Yeah. It's conceivable that you could convince one person to do a steal a vote as a big blind side or whatever, and that would be
Yeah.
advantageous for them, the whole thing. So that makes sense. I will to argue slightly the other side. Those were good arguments and you win the argument, certainly. Um, I totally understood pre-merge why Jay was the big target on her
Mhm.
side of just like, hey, we've got this four, and while we're still one tribe, we kind of lean towards like Sifu as the
Strength or
we
whatever.
don't have other without him, we don't have the really big, strong, muscular person is kind of missing from our group that otherwise, if it gets into like lift this cage in the ocean again, we're not going to be able to do that. The rest of us, we need him for those things. And so while it was one tribe, I got it. The moment they switched then to the full tribe, I at least I felt like there was an argument to be had of like, Jay never knew that she wasn't a part of your thing. So
Right.
there's no like repair work that needs done. There is now just opportunity to be like, hey, that thing you thought the whole time. Yeah, it's true. You're a
Totally
part
a
of
thing.
us. Like you're Reba Strong, baby. Let's go. You still want to get Sifu out? No problem or anything. So I thought just the timing of it, like I felt like she should have is one of the people that should have gotten a little bit of a new life in the game
Totally.
because
Yeah.
of the merge. But then, yeah, the power that is brought to because those four are so clearly, and they are we kind of skipped over it, but when they all get back on the beach, they're the most obvious of the ones, but they do make it very clear and obvious of like those four are very excited to be back together. They
Yeah.
are still in lockstep. They've been working together, even though they've been on different beaches for 6 days. They've still been thinking things of like, we're working together with those. And so, yeah, the chance to get to one, have an easy vote to, and build some rapport with the enemies,
Yeah.
essentially, and get 1.5 advantages out of it. It makes sense. But we still eventually head to tribal council, and it's it seems totally up in the air between Caleb and Jay Maya. And so let's go ahead and transition to talking about this pretty memorable tribal council. I think we should just fast forward to there's, Jeff's regular questions. And I I had never known until a few weeks ago when we discussed and talked about from the On Fire podcast how they talked about, and I'm sure it's other super fans of Survivor knew this before, but like I didn't know until this season that they talk to each person cast member as they're going into tribal and ask them who they're going to vote for,
Yeah,
and that definitely then shades Jeff's questions in a big way, and it makes me think they obviously know that because they literally have one-on-one conversations with them. So it would make
right.
I realized this was the first episode where I really realized like, oh, if Jeff's asking me questions, I'm so nervous at tribal council. And if Jeff's not asking me questions, I'm not nervous at all because he's asking the people questions that he knows are on the chopping block, whether we're willing to admit it as a group or not. This group willing to admit it. They eventually it takes a few questions, but they get there. They get it narrowed down to, Caleb. Caleb seems like the target. And Caleb gives the first small version of the little impassioned, well, I am the biggest threat here, but also I'm not a strategic threat, which those things it doesn't completely line up, but
Technically,
we know
by
it.
saying you're the biggest threat proves that you're not a strategic threat because you
Yeah,
shouldn't say that.
his speech does prove he is not the biggest strategic threat. That is for certain. He says it once. J Maya pushes back on it. D actually pushes back on him a little and like kind of throws in some questions. And then we
I think it
get
was the second time, wasn't it, that D
Yeah, the
kind of
second
chimed
time she
in?
does it. Yeah, the second time I guess she does it. But yeah, the second time being Caleb is like, excuse me, Jeff. I would actually like to reiterate what I previously said and expound upon those thoughts. I am clearly the best, biggest threat here, but I'm not very smart. And I'm saying that out loud because I'm not strategic and you shouldn't vote me out. And then is it Jay or is it someone else that says like, well, then who should we vote out? Who asks him
Um,
that?
I think, yeah, I
He is
think it was,
prompted before he goes into the J Maya part.
I think it was, I think it was Jay because I think
Yeah, I
he
think
then
Jay turns
said
around and
like,
asks, like,
yeah,
what?
he's like, well, I think that everybody should vote for Jay.
Yeah,
Um,
which I've been dying for someone to do. His path to get to the point of where just flat out saying, like, shouldn't we could all just say it openly? Let's all vote for this
yeah,
person. So I was happy that someone finally did that. But yeah, he's just like, everyone should vote for Jay. And he gives some like reasons or whatever. And it becomes very contentious and awkward.
I
And he throws
I
some
did
questions
like his
in.
reason though. Like I liked what he said. It made sense because it wasn't necessarily that he was making something up. He sort of like pushed the Reba 3, like the three women, as being
The strongest
in
contingent.
yeah, as being a very strong three-person alliance. So their threat level is high. And the thing is, that doesn't have to be true because not everybody has had the opportunity to have those conversations. So it only has to be perception because in the world of Why Blank Lost and these lovely rules of Survivor here by David Bloomberg, perception is reality in the game, right? So if you're saying you're a very strong three-person alliance, and by sacrificing one of your members, that takes you down to two people, which lowers your threat level. Because if we go into a game with 12 people and you're three votes that are unanimous, that's something we have to be worried about. And he says it so matter of factly that it's almost like he was told by production, he was like, just so you know, this is the alliance you have to worry about. These three women who are not actually an alliance and they're not even like, they're not actively working together except for like Julie and D. Um, but the way that he says it, just sort of like the confidence that he has almost gives it life. And then when D kind of fires back about how like, well, you did say my name, so I'm going to push back a bit. And he's like, well, in fairness, you said my name first. So that sort of diffused the situation. She's like, yeah, fair point.
Yes, but I don't know. I would love to know because obviously we'll talk about it here in a second that everyone votes for Caleb, but he plays
Yep.
a shot in the dark and safe. And so D and Julie vote for Caleb, but D was, one of the ones most firmly on at first was firmly
Jay.
on Jay and eventually came around to being kind of firmly on let's get Caleb out, but then Julie was a little torn over it too or whatever. So I wonder if they had decided if none of this mattered and they were already fully like we're voting for Caleb no matter what, or if this played any part in swaying either of them of like, wait a minute, dude, we were maybe on the side of the other person you're kind of up against here, and now you've thrown
Said
us
our names.
under the bus with them and said our names at tribal council and called us big threats. And so like now if there was any room, wiggle room, like you lost it. And I don't know that that's the best strategy from him. But it ultimately doesn't matter, at least for this tribal council, because he plays a
This
shot
one.
in the dark and he freaking gets it. 1 out of 6 odds. He gets it. Is this the first shot in the dark that's worked?
Second, Jamie used it last season in a situation where she didn't necessarily need it, but she didn't want to vote for somebody that she
Yes.
was working with.
But it
So
didn't
instead, she
save
used a shot
her.
in the dark. No, she got
No, yeah.
she got safe, but it negated
Yeah.
0 votes because she wasn't the target.
Second time that anyone's ever pulled safe, first time that they've pulled safe and needed the
Yeah,
safety. Yes. And not just needed the safety, but unanimous vote,
unanimous vote.
completely unanimous. And um well, first, can you believe that it actually worked?
No, I never thought it was going
I didn't
to.
think we'd ever
Honestly,
actually see it happen in this dramatic of a fashion. Maybe if it ever happened, it would be in like a tight vote or something, but
yeah.
never in a
But
like true unanimous fashion. That's wild.
yeah, it's so rare that you actually get a true unanimous vote, and like especially on the first vote. On the revote, it makes sense because like everybody pivots to the second person.
Yeah.
But in like in a first vote, unanimous, because that person is playing that well, usually it's this person has done something so egregious that we just want them off of our tribe. We
Yeah.
do not want any part of them being involved with us anymore. We don't want them back at our beach. We don't want them in this game. We are voting this person out unanimously as a decision to show that we do not stand for whatever they did.
Yeah.
But then to have somebody be that good and be perceived to be that good that every single other person that had the option to vote voted for them to be out, and then none of it mattered.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy. And we get the drama of like even unanimous votes on smaller tribes and stuff. Jeff doesn't have to read all the votes in those situations. We know it's
Yeah,
unanimous after the fact because we can, watch the votes in the end credits. But like the fact that Jeff has to read all of the names all the way to the end and there's like all this drama of like, wait a minute, is one of these going to be J Maya?
I
And
thought that she was gonna throw a vote somewhere because like you have to feel that like I don't and I mean I don't know. It could have been like it could have felt like it was more back and forth, but like if you think that it might be
But is it that's in a situation where you like feel pretty good that this person is gonna get voted out, but they might play their shot in the dark.
right,
I think she felt like this is 50-50 toss up and like
my vote
by
counts.
using up like it's not yeah, I'm my vote matters to get
Yeah.
this to be 7-6 or whatever. And so I totally get why she wouldn't have
Oh, me too.
the one that I the whole time why I was stunned with every reveal of Caleb and no reveal of Jay was what I kind of referenced earlier. Emily voted for Caleb.
She did.
And that's the thing I am most interested in looking to next episode. We'll talk a little bit more about that in our wishes and predictions. But like, I was pretty shocked that Emily, I think, smartly figured out and read and understood he's going to get voted out here. And the best thing for me to do is to also vote for him and not reveal because she had done such a good job of being like, I'm kind of with Austin and Drew now. I'm open still to the Bello people that are talking to me. Like she had done such a good job of not making it known that her and Caleb were going to be number ones for each other
Yeah.
again. And so, if he goes home, she has played this perfectly of using him as well as she could and then getting out at the exact right moment. But I was pretty shocked that she didn't vote for Jay. And I actually honestly felt horrible for Jay Maya because it's way worse.
Oh, it
It's
was
so much better
brutal.
if, like, hey, dude, the guy pulled a shot in the dark. That's shit luck for you.
Yeah.
And his one ally threw the vote on you. That sucks. It's obviously terrible, hard. You're voted out Survivor. It's going to be the worst day. But that just feels so much more tolerable than it was unanimous. Even his
Raw.
allies voted for him. and he pulled the shot in the dark, and now we had to revote, and no one knows what to do
You
because
were
we're
the name that was
revoting.
said.
And he had just given this long, impassioned speech about why it should be me. And so the very easy thing to do, whether they were already thinking that as the second option or not, but just the easy thing to do in that moment where they have a revote 30-second scramble is like,
Yeah.
okay, well, like Jay, I guess for now, whatever. Like that was the other option we were all talking about. So I feel horrible that that's the way she has to go out. Like that sucks so
At
much.
least she took it well in the like her final confessional where she basically said
She knew
like,
she was like a part of history. Like
yeah,
this is
it's
wild and crazy, and I don't have to feel bad about this.
yeah, it's like when Carson went out and he's like, "Look, I went out in fire making to the person who made fire faster than anybody else has ever
Yeah,
made
it's
fire
like
on the show before." Like she went out with the person being a unanimous vote and then the shot in the dark actually working.
yeah,
Like yes, it absolutely sucks, and I feel terrible for her because I enjoyed her on the show. Side note, I did finally listen to the song that she wrote that was heavily steeped in like Greek mythology. Um, it's super rad. I really like how she integrated everything. Um,
love it.
I enjoyed it,
Yeah,
and
Survivor fans should go. I saw her tweet about. I think her streams have gotten a real boost from being on the
nice.
show, and everyone should go stream her music. That helped. I believe she's an independent, potentially artist, so those
Yeah,
streams actually go a long way to putting some money in her pocket. So definitely, definitely go do that.
and I will send you the link so that we can include it in the show notes as well. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's called Achilles Heel is the name of the song, and it was super cool. Especially as a fan of like the Percy Jackson books and everything like that.
nice.
Um, it all tied in really well. But yeah, like she tried to get an Emily vote going, which is really the only other option because that's the only thing that's going to gain any momentum whatsoever is the potential that you can flip it on Emily. And I really, when Caleb said the words, finally, for once, this game goes in my direction, I was like, Emily's gone. Like,
Yeah, it did seem
you
foreshadowy.
can't, yeah, you can't say something like that while you're still a tribal, dude. There's only two Lulus left, and the Lulu curse didn't hit you. There's only one other person it can hit.
Yeah, and the
But
other thing about that moment, I'm I only feel bad for Jay Maya in this. This is not actually like me saying anything negative about
yeah,
Caleb, even though I kind of am. Um, it's impossible to control your reaction. You just
yeah,
got a shot in the dark, just worked on a unanimous vote. Okay. You're going to be freaking excited,
you were gone, and now you're
obviously.
not.
But like, it felt so awful when they just like would keep pan over to Jay Maya and everyone's like going wild and crazy and
And
Caleb's like
she's just like,
celebrating and she's just like, I just fucking lost. Like one of us
yeah,
loses because of this and it's me. And like no one on her tribe, like D's sitting right behind her. Like D, could you like give her a
yeah,
little half hug or something? Like, I don't know. I don't know.
like, yeah, it's
I just felt horrible. It was like,
brutal.
Caleb, could you tone it down like a tiny bit? Like
Yeah, and that's
you're like vote the person out and then as you're leaving tribal, jump and click your heels and yell and whoop and whatever. But like, again, I'm not actually like I'm not upset at him for it. It makes total
they're two
sense. But it,
separate
it
things.
but it just
Like,
made me feel really awful for Jay Maya, who I like.
yeah, they're two completely separate incidents. Like, I felt absolutely terrible for J Maya because like as soon as that happened, she saw all the dominoes falling. She knew
Yeah.
exactly what was going to happen. But everybody else, because they're now casting super fans, were like over the moon, like super jazzed that this actually worked. And like they didn't even care that
Yeah.
all of their
They
votes were
witnessed
negated.
it. They were a part of it.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like super awesome. I totally get it. And then on in that one bubble, party your ass off because you were 100% the unanimous vote, and I have no idea where you go from here, but you're still in the game right now.
Yes.
But
Not winning,
then
dude.
you still have to vote, and this person is definitely going. No matter what happens, the writing's kind of on the wall. So I don't fault anybody for having the positive reaction, but I still feel bad for J Maya not being able to really participate in that because as much as she's part of history, she also knows that her
She's
game
the
is ending
loser
in that
in the
moment.
history. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tough look. We didn't even get to hear any good puns. I'm really upset.
No.
Hopefully hopefully they start streaming the World Pun Championships or whatever it was that she won,
I would
because
watch it.
I still need to know what that's all about. But
Me too.
we'll never know, at least on this season of Survivor, because J Maya is gone. Caleb is still here. Thankfully, Emily is still here. And
Yes.
now we will hand out some awards. Let's kick it off. As always, same awards, same order. Quote of the episode. You referenced one potential nominee earlier. Did you have any? Can you remind us what that one was, and any other nominees that you might have had for the line quote of the episode?
Oh, what was my quote?
Well,
What was
you
it
look it
about?
up. I'll say the one that I
Oh,
assume was on
yeah.
your list for sure, because I don't
Go
know
for
how
it.
it wouldn't have been. But the name of the episode, it was actually a really good quote this time, and that was Caleb. You can't run through this game like a vigilante. I'm not Batman. I'm Caleb. I'm the Canadian. End quote. Which I don't know why he had to throw the "I'm the Canadian" on the end, but he's clearly playing to
Because we're
your heart
nice.
and all Canadians' hearts of like reminding you he is the Canadian.
Yeah, I was for it. That was one of the ones that I wrote down. I also appreciated Jake in the very beginning, like right around the time that he had the confessional about uh, trying to look for his ring, where he said, "We don't want to tell Katura because we've been trying to vote her out a little bit." Like, like there's stages to how much you were trying to vote somebody out, just
Well,
a
they
little
haven't
bit.
got to vote anyone out yet, so
Yeah.
there's
So
also that.
just kind of a little bit we were trying to vote her out.
Yeah.
And I liked the I liked the quantification of how much they were trying to vote her out, despite, like you said, never having gone to tribal to be able to vote her out. The one that I mentioned earlier, which is what's a pepperaya, which is a valid question, as I also do not know what a pepperaya is. Um, I'm interested to find out. There were some good quotes this episode. I
There were
liked
some others
Kelly's.
I didn't write down and I knew in the moment I should have. But yes, this was the best episode for the confessional quotes, I think, for sure.
Yeah, Kelly's "I've never been afraid of big dudes"
Yeah, I
was
liked that.
another standout, and I mean, just because it was so good, just and so flat, was Katura's "Bruce is stupid" when they were having the conversation about Caleb versus Jay. Um,
She's
and not
she's had her opinions about Bruce long enough now that she like all the emotion is out of it.
just Bruce
She's
is
no
dumb,
longer, it's not, yeah, she's like Bruce is stupid. It doesn't matter.
but and
Just-
like that's it's
I've
not
been
even
over it 17 times in the last 6
yeah.
days. So like he's just stupid. I don't have emotion left about it. That's just what he is. These are facts that I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not even that I dislike Bruce. Bruce is fine, but like I appreciate how much Katura is not vibing with Bruce
Yeah.
and how she's just like, "Look, we don't get along. We're not going to get along."
Yeah.
And
And I'm with her.
like yeah, and that's I know that it's an edit of just like him asking people to do everything, but you have to say the thing in order for it to be
Yeah.
edited in.
Yeah.
Um Austin also gets an honorable mention for me with "She took my sandwich, so I don't mind her going." Like she can give up her chance at $1 million. I almost had a sandwich and now I don't, and it's her fault.
Yeah. I love that. Those are all
Yeah,
fantastic
that's
nominees.
all I got.
I'm gonna I'll go ahead and give it to Kendra Paparaya, because I think we've already given this award to Caleb a time or two, and we've already used the. I don't I don't love agreeing with the show and using the quote that they use for the title, even
Understandable.
if when they get it right this time, because it was actually a good quote that they pulled part of out. So we'll give it to Kendra. Favorite moment of the episode. Um, we touched on some, there's some the big obvious ones. Probably the most obvious here. We'll still talk about some other nominees, but Caleb shot in the dark work. That was a pretty big moment, I would say. Probably going to
Yeah,
be
just a bit.
remembered from this. But to give a couple other small moments some shine real quick that we didn't talk about, I guess I did mention Kendra's expressions that they had me going. I actually wrote villain watch next to her, the first one, because I'm starting to get vibes of like
She's got a
a
hit
different
list.
type of villain, but like that she could be disliked amongst the tribe if people kind of similar to like what's happened to Bruce or similar to like what happened to Marianne at one point, like or even Carolyn even last season. if you have a very expressive personality, eventually on a beach where you're starving, that can wear on people, or people, if someone is working against you, it's going to annoy them even extra more. See Katura and Bruce. Um, so maybe there. The other moment though that we didn't mention at all that I gotta say that was my favorite moment, sans Caleb's shot in the dark working, was when the group was singing the "We Made the Merge" song and the little bug was shifting back and forth,
Yep.
to the beat, quote unquote, to the
Yes.
beat, and Sifu was, of course, prominently involved in this. Sifu and Kendra, the connection that I'm waiting to
BFF
see
for
blossom, because
BFF4L.
I don't know what's going to be said or sung or happen, but I just want those two to hang out more. But it wasn't the moment of the bug and them singing. It was the juxtaposition of that happening and then Drew and Austin being off talking and like looking as they like heard from afar
Yeah, yeah.
everyone, and Drew's confessional of him being like, I'm not like, I don't like any of this. Like I'm trying to like play the game and we're trying to talk and everyone else is like kumbaya or whatever. I just really liked that moment and that juxtaposition because I just love Drew so much. I just thought it was so funny that Drew and Austin were like, yeah, we want nothing to do with that. Let's continue
Yep.
to talk game here. Do you have any others that you want to put up for a losing nomination to Caleb Shot in the Dark?
I I will give props to Jake and his losing his ring, and just like
It was a fun moment.
how he like it went from 0 to like 12, and then while it was at 12 he winked at Caleb, and then we got the confessional that he winked at Caleb, so Caleb knew what was going on, and then he kept doing it while he's putting his ring, like while he's got the one ring presumably in his pocket and he's putting the other one back around his neck, and then he like winks at Bruce, and he's given the play by play while it's all happening, and it's very like heist movie sort of thing. And as a lover of like all heist movies, I had to appreciate that one. So even though it's going to lose to The Shot in the Dark, I feel that it's worth mentioning.
He doesn't stand up at any point, and as mad as he was acting about losing his ring, you've got to act like you lost that and don't know where you lost it. You can't be like, wait a minute, as I was sitting here, I dropped my ring and it's somewhere right at my feet. I'm gonna dig for it. Like, bro, you're gonna find it then. All right. You don't have to get too upset if you like, I just dropped it in the sand. You're gonna find it. We could all calm down. You don't got to be a 12 out of 10. So I needed him to like be like, you go, can you go look at by the water? I was also on the beach this morning, but like, Bruce, go to this tree, whatever. Like, I needed him to, if he was gonna act the
Start
12,
delegating.
to start being like, this is where it could be, and then be the one that comes back with it, so to speak.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, Caleb Shot in the Dark is the best moment, because it's obviously a historic moment in the show and a pretty incredible, crazy, wild end to this episode. Best gameplay of the episode, Tony. Who are you giving that award to?
I am going to say that Caleb for calling out the Reba 3, even though they're not necessarily a really tight 3, just the perception that they are, was good. Austin letting his vote ride to become a full idol, being confident enough in what was going on and the read at Tribal to do that. I'm gonna properly give it to Austin for that moment. Um, but I just want to say, like, as far as Caleb goes, Caleb is bringing so much to this season, and I would like to point out that he, to the best of my knowledge, is one of the ones that Adam Klein did the coaching with. Um, so Adam Klein's coaching is very much like getting yourself out of the way so you feel comfortable on camera, so you can really like do well in your interviews and stuff like that. Um, on Fire, Jeff decided to go really far out of his way to be an absolute asshat again and say like we should give whoever coached Caleb like whatever, like crate of wine or whatever the hell it was, and he's like, and if anyone's thinking that I'm sincere, I'm not. And I was like, cool, you just came off as a huge asshole for no reason.
Yeah,
And
give the
yeah,
man a job.
he's like a total fucking dickhead about it. And like I am a huge Survivor fan, and like normally I don't really care what Jeff Probst does, but he's being a real asshole about this for no reason. And like I have no problem with Hannah or Sean. Your casting process cast two people who did subsequently quit. whether they were voted out by their tribe or not. And
They
then
quit. That's what's in
the
the record
flip
book.
the flip side of that is Caleb's doing really well. And like I like that. And props to Caleb for being able to be himself, because it's not like Adam taught him how to be Caleb.
Yeah.
Adam, like, Caleb is Caleb, and like Caleb is very clearly Caleb.
Hmm.
He's a salesman, and he's super happy all the time, like high energy. Even when he's low energy, he's still like good vibes. That's Caleb. Like, it's not like he was taught to be someone else. He's totally just him, and that's why he was cast.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
like, don't be a dick about it, man. Like,
Yeah. It's funny how much it irritates him though.
yeah, that makes me happy. How much he's irritated by it, and how much he needs to take pot shots to make himself feel better. But like, fuck off.
Yeah.
Like,
Leave him alone or give him a job. One of the two. I don't
yeah,
know.
let him do
Um,
casting.
yeah. Okay. So you give it to Austin though, is your
Hmm.
best gameplay. My winner, hands down, is Emily. I'm just
Fair,
blown away how
absolutely
well she
fair.
handles this. It's
Yeah,
unbelievable that no one at this point knows that Caleb is their number one person. And she was
yeah.
as talked to as anyone on that beach. And she did make sure Caleb still like knows and solidifies, like, you are still my number one, but no one has any idea. And the fact that she read the situation so perfectly and had the wherewithal to vote for Caleb. Again, we'll see how that plays out when they get back on the beach and discuss
I think
it.
it's a non-issue.
Yeah, hopefully if Caleb is smart, he is
Yeah.
like, that's unbelievable. Thank goodness you did that. Like, that's going to help us in a big way. Hopefully he is able to see that situation. I think he definitely
Oh
will.
yeah.
But that far and away stands out to me. Like, she's gonna win. She's gonna.
Austin gave her the reason to go. Austin told her to like go and talk to him and let him know that he's chill so he doesn't play his shot in
Yeah,
the dark. Obviously that didn't work because he played shot in the dark. But
yeah.
like,
Just
you can't, if you're at that tribal and you're Caleb, you're playing your shot in the dark
yeah,
regardless. But like, the fact that Austin was like, can you just go and make sure that he's cool and that he knows that he's safe? So that gave her the
yeah,
opportunity to have that conversation, to be like, look, basically, again, this isn't Emily trying to save her ass. This is Emily saving your ass.
yeah. Perfectly maneuvered in every single way.
Oh
Unbelievable.
yeah.
Worst gameplay of the episode. Does anyone stand out with bad gameplay to you? I've got to run back through my notes here. I didn't immediately have anyone or any situation that came to mind.
I'm gonna give it to Bruce. Um,
Yeah, that's true. Never mind. That does. Yeah, Bruce.
I'm gonna give it to
I think he
Bruce
did a
for.
pretty horrible job, honestly, all things considered.
Here's the thing, man. Like, Bruce put Caleb's name out there hard enough that it not only came back to Caleb that his name was going around, but it came back to Caleb from at least two different people in Emily and Kelly, that Bruce is the one saying your name. So Bruce did that while Caleb has the information. The only piece of information that Bruce has is leverage, which is that he has an idol. So Caleb does
Now
the only
everyone
thing that he
knows
can
because
do.
Caleb
He's
shared.
like, look, here's the deal. Bruce has an idol. I'm not working with them. I'm working with you.
Yeah, which, well, I'm sure he'll still stick to too. But like
Yeah.
the Reba four is in just fantastic. The Reba four and Emily are in fantastic position
Yeah.
right now.
They're like Tika
Um,
from last season.
yeah. But yeah, worst gameplay to Bruce for sure. Episode MVP, Mr. Tony. Can we get back in simpatico here or not?
It's a dual MVP. I refuse to give one an honorable mention versus an MVP in the other, and that's Caleb and Emily.
Ooh, okay, okay, okay. Mm, I will split the vote for you and say that it has to be Caleb. I think it has to be Caleb. I mean, it's not just because he did the historic thing, because he just drew the thing for that, but like he's definitely the most present in the episode. I don't know confessional counts from the episodes. I don't keep track of them for Survivor, but I would imagine
No.
he was as high or higher than everyone in this particular episode. He was definitely the most mentioned person between the rest of the cast, and was pretty entertaining most of the way through. I'll give shout outs to Jake, definitely
Yes.
brought good entertainment while not being a part of the main storyline, which is always a thing that gets you on the kind of long list of MVP candidates for an episode. Kendra certainly, Sifu even a little bit, throwing some stuff out there. But yeah, I mean, at the end, it comes down to Caleb and Emily, as it continues to seem to do every single episode. And I will break your tie. I will allow you to give out a co MVP, but I will solidify it that Caleb is coming down as the MVP on my side. And now, all we have alluded to them multiple times, and I've probably given mine away. Let's go ahead and close things out with the power rankings and predictions. Power ranking front. I always make you go first on this, so I will go first this time around. And mine definitely changed because I don't think I could put Caleb in the top 5 anymore. Cause like I just don't know how you can have a unanimous 9-person vote for you and then come back from that at any point. Like you can win some immunities, you can like avoid being the next person voted out or anything. Like you can come back temporarily, but I don't know how I see any way where Caleb, if this happened, if Caleb were to win this season or even just make the final 3 after having a 9-person unanimous vote against him, that is, all-time legendary stuff. I think Emily is number 1 because she's gonna win. I have Kelly number 2. I have D number 3. Although D, I will say this episode it was coming on strong for sure in a couple of spots where it was like this isn't hurting you, but I don't know that 100% you need to be coming on so strong quite yet. And so we'll see. But I feel really good about those 3: Emily, Kelly, and D. And then after that, Jake is probably 4th for me. He moves up another spot after breaking into the top 5 last week. And I don't even know who I want to give the 5th spot to. I don't know. I just feel really good about those 4 people and their position in the game. I guess the 5th spot is a combo Drew Austin because they're a unit, they're a tandem. Um, and maybe Julie as well, just the rest of the Reba 4. But I feel really good about my top 4: Emily, Kelly, D, and Jake. And then yeah, because I like Drew so much, I'll let there's no ties here. Drew is in 5th for me. What do you got on your side?
we almost we almost did it.
Oh, we almost did it? Like,
Yep,
same people or same order or both?
both.
Oh,
Like we
wow, okay.
almost
What was the
like
difference? Where did we divide?
you just lost it when you switched from Austin to Drew.
Oh, wow. Well, that's again, they're the same person. They're one and
Yeah.
the same. They're half of the same coin, however, whatever phrase, yin and yang, all that stuff. So we basically
So
have the same. Wow,
we
okay.
do, yeah. So I have Emily, Kelly, D, Jake, Austin. I've got Caleb as my 6th. I've done everything that I could do to lower his threat level by taking him down off of my power ranking
Yeah, we're helping
because
Caleb. We're trying our best.
it's all I can do at this point. Now I think it was Stephen Fishback who said it on Twitter that when you have a move like this and you come back, it's not necessarily that you're like immediately public enemy number 1
Because it's so
because
obvious that that you maybe have a cycle or whatever.
there's also some like a sort of a glimmer to what you're able to accomplish,
Yeah.
and you kind of get lost in that shuffle of like holy shit that just happened.
And probably a confidence from everyone else of like, well, we
We can get
know
him out
when we
whenever.
decide to vote Caleb, everyone's on board and that it'll
Yeah,
be fine now. Like we could keep him around a little bit because clearly we all are on the same page that we will vote him out when we decide that it's time. But because we know that, maybe we should move it down the line to get some other people out that we aren't sure yet if we can
yeah.
100% do. Yeah, that could happen. But yeah, him getting back and winning would be
He did make history. He
stunning.
made history by negating 11 votes, which is the
Yeah.
most with an idol or an advantage. So obviously
Wow.
he did it with an advantage. Kelly Wentworth did it with an idol. She negated 9 votes in a single tribal.
Wow. Incredible. Well,
Yeah.
we'll see if he can continue on and make more history. Wishes and predictions. Do you have one specific wish for next week's episode? Mine is definitely my wish is what we said before about Caleb uh handling Emily voting for him the right way, the
Yep.
smart way, because it was the smart thing for her to do and it just is going to work out in their favor if he handles it appropriately. So my wish is because I am definitely rooting for them and like them is that he does. That's probably my biggest wish for next episode and the secondary one is also what I referenced before, but I need a scene of Kendra and Sifu like hanging on the beach doing something. Maybe he teaches her Tai Chi, she teaches him some astrology, something. I just need those two to have a one-on-one conversation and to just see what happens.
I mean, like, I'm Lulu strong, so I'm exactly like you. I want Caleb and Emily to come back together. I don't see like really how they can't. That's why they're my like co MVPs, is because as much as Caleb saved himself this episode, Emily really set herself up for the game going forward, where there wasn't a stray vote. It was all Caleb, which means that Emily voted with Reba, which means that Reba can trust Emily.
Yeah.
Um, so that's big for me. I just want Lulu to stick around. Um, I would like to see. I need somebody else to have an idol, or I need like Kelly and Austin to have a conversation because
Who currently has idols? So Austin has a full-blown idol to Final 5,
yeah,
Bruce has a full-blown idol to Final 5. Austin and Kelly have the amulets that could be idols if one of them is voted out.
yep.
And is there any others out there right now? I don't think there is,
I
right?
don't think so because the goodwill advantage got used to
Yeah.
restore the vote that got lost.
And
Um,
Bello, did anyone from Bello ever have the Beware idol to
I
begin
don't
with?
believe
I
so.
don't think they
No.
did. We saw 2 Beware idols and now a third one. Sabaya's left. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, that's where we stand. That tells me that's not enough for Modern Survivor. There's
There'll
going to
be
be a
more.
journey next episode.
There's
There's going to be an
there's
idol.
also the next time on it's a double elimination, which means they're going to split into smaller groups and go to two separate tribals, which I
I
also
hate
hate.
that. Yeah.
I hate it as much as they're in the merge. Like you're you've merged. You've put everybody on the same beach. If
Yeah,
you're
just do
going
it.
to do this, keep everybody in separate tribes and do it that way. But if you're going to merge, stay merged. I hate the double elimination because you always lose at least one person that you really like.
I'm cool with eliminating 2 people, but, like, do
Yep.
it as 1 tribe. Have
Yep.
12-person tribe, have 2 people. The other thing I agreed with you before, I'm totally down when there's this many people to have 2 winners of an individual immunity, like,
Yeah.
that's chill.
Absolutely.
That actually seems maybe a little bit better. I kind of would like there to be a little bit more of a chance to earn safety than just 1 out of 12 people, but, like, do all 12 people, 2 people can win immunity, but then the other 10 are all up for grabs and the
And two
entire
go home.
tribe is voting. I don't know if they were to do that, do you want everyone to cast 2 votes when they go up? Do you want them to do a vote, send someone home, and then everyone immediately vote again? How do you
I
want to
th-
structure that? Because that's probably the question they have of like, if
yeah.
we vote 2, we can't vote 2 people out in one big group because what's the method to doing it? Is it everyone votes twice and who the 2 biggest vote getters? That's interesting. It's chaotic, but,
Yeah. I mean, you could vote. You wouldn't want to vote twice because the whole concept is you have one vote, that's your vote, and blah blah blah.
yeah.
And like if you get an extra vote, that's a big thing. So I would almost say I would I would almost say that you have to vote.
To vote someone out and then sit down and vote again,
Yeah.
essentially. Like, that
But
person's
then
gone now, and so now everyone vote again.
yeah, but then that's weird
Potentially
too.
yeah, I don't know, maybe we're talking ourselves into maybe this is the conversation they have and why they're like, if we need or want to eliminate 2 people, we gotta do it via 2
Then don't
different
do it.
groups. But yeah, then don't do it.
Like
It's not that hard.
if you've had this conversation that we've just had and you've reached the same conclusion that we've just realized where there's not really an easy way to do vote two people out at the same tribal, then don't. Do it this way. You have two immunity challenges back to back. Maybe you have like an immunity challenge, one person wins, you go to tribal, but you get very limited scramble time. And then when you get back to the beach, you think it's all well and good, but then you go right into another immunity challenge. Like, do it that way. That's
Yeah.
probably your easiest way to do it. And you can still have two people immune. Like, that's fine. I don't care. I don't feel that the number of people immune should be equal to the number of people that have to leave. Like, when you've got this many people, have two winners.
Yeah, it's
Fine.
that easy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. So just
Well,
yeah, I'm with you though. Just if you're gonna be one tribe, be one tribe, merge, actually do it. It's interesting to see the dynamic because it happens so rarely, if ever, at this point, of we're always basically stuck with like 3 to 6 people are vulnerable, and it's way more interesting when there's if there would have been 13 or 12 people vulnerable this episode, if there would be 11 people vulnerable next episode, which there will be, but you know what I mean. Yeah, it'd just be better. Well, my prediction is that we won't be happy with the format decisions next week because we already know them. And so score one
We'll
for
be
me.
here to
That's an
bitch about
accurate
them.
prediction. Good for me. I'm really bad at predictions right now over in the challenge universe. So I'll take a win anywhere I can get it. That is all for Survivor 45 episode number 6. Tony and I will be back next week. Odds are it will be on Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, or Monday. And, but
Ooh.
maybe we can keep the Friday streak going. Who knows? But we will be back at some point. Definitely make sure to go follow Challenge Fandom, follow, subscribe here to this pod, hit either of us up on Instagram. Is that the best place if someone wants to chat Survivor with you, Tony? Is your
Yeah,
Instagram? Yeah.
definitely.
Biodomer. It's in the show notes below, same as mine at Challenge Historian. And yeah, we'll be back next week for hopefully a continued wonderful season of Survivor.